As they relaxed on the night of the battle, Glyndwr's men had plenty to be happy about. Not only had they won a great victory, they'd also found themselves a rather important captive, Sir Edmund Mortimer, head of the powerful Mortimer family. As it happens, Glyndwr and Mortimer were well known to each other. They'd had significant dealings in the past, some of which must have taken place here at Wigmore Castle in Herefordshire, ancestral home of the Mortimer family. But now the two men were about to forge much stronger links. Their families were about to be joined in marriage. In November 1402, 6 months after he was captured by Glyndwr's men, Sir Edmund unexpectedly married the Welshman's eldest daughter, Catrin. By arranging the match, Glyndwr had pulled off a stunning coup. He'd gained not only a wealthy son-in-law, but also an immensely useful ally. For the Mortimers weren't just any old family. They had royal blood in their veins just as much, if not more, than King Henry.
Those who were doubtful about Henry IV would naturally look to the Mortimers as the heirs to the throne of England. Now, Edmund Mortimer is not only captured by Glyndwr, but marries Glyndwr's daughter. So there is a definite alliance there between the true claimant to the throne of England and Glyndwr.
Now, Glyndwr's motives for welcoming the marriage are clear enough. But let's face it, those of Sir Edmund Mortimer are more difficult to understand. Why on earth did this powerful Englishman ally himself to the Welsh?
Well, he obviously hated Henry IV. I think he obviously loathed him. And Glyndwr, after all, was a very persuasive character. I mean, in Shakespeare, there's a love scene between Glyndwr's daughter and Mortimer. It may have been a real affectionate match as well. I mean, Glyndwr was an attractive man. Presumably his daughters were attractive as well.
We can never be absolutely sure why the marriage happened. What we do know is that the alliance with the Mortimer family was a big boost for Glyndwr's revolt. In the summer of 1403, with Sir Edmund Mortimer at his side, the last Welsh prince rode in triumph through West Wales before launching a successful attack on the key town of Carmarthen. This took the campaign to a new level, and there were more advances to come. The time had come for yet another powerful English family to come to Glyndwr's aid. This time, it was the Percys of Northumberland. The most prominent member of the family was Sir Henry Percy, or Harry Hotspur, as he's commonly known. Well, it was here, in the city of Chester, that he decided to raise the banner of revolt against Henry IV. Why Chester? Well, because this city had very strong links to Richard II, the man who'd been deposed by Henry. The Percys detested the king, and this alliance with Owain Glyndwr was meant to be a way of getting rid of the monarch. And it might have worked too, if it hadn't been for the legendary rashness of Harry Hotspur. The allies had agreed that he wouldn't go into battle against the king until the army under his command had been joined by two other armies, one raised by his father, the other by Glyndwr. Unwilling to wait, Hotspur now decided to ignore this plan and go it alone. On the 21st of July 1403, he engaged the king's troops in battle on the outskirts of Shrewsbury. It soon became clear that he'd made a disastrous mistake. At the end of the day, Henry IV was triumphant, while Harry Hotspur and a huge number of his men were dead. The Battle of Shrewsbury, which took place on these fields, was one of the bloodiest encounters ever seen on British soil. Over 10,000 men were killed, including Harry Hotspur. Many thousands were injured. And for Henry IV, this was a real turning point. It was the start, if you like, of a process of consolidating. For the Percys, the battle was an unqualified disaster. But what about Owain Glyndwr? Well, Glyndwr hadn't lost a single man. Hotspur had been so impatient to get into battle that he hadn't waited for the Welsh to arrive. So Glyndwr still had the men, he had the power and the determination to carry on, which is what he did. Slowly but surely, Glyndwr now tightened his grip on Wales. First, he won a series of victories in the southern half of the country, the part over which he'd previously had least control. And then he made huge advances in the north.
The successes were remarkable. I mean, by 1404, most of the surface area of Wales did recognise the authority of Glyndwr. Now, when you think of the lack of proportion between the powers on the two sides, that was a very remarkable achievement indeed. So he must have had something on his side. Might have been luck, it might have been the weather, it might have been his own magnetic personality and his talents of leadership.
Two of Glyndwr's greatest triumphs now took place. In quick succession, he and his men captured two of the castles built a century earlier by Edward I. Aberystwyth was one, and Harlech was the other. The capture of this castle was particularly impressive, because like so many other castles right across Wales, mighty Harlech had been built to keep the Welsh down, which is exactly what it had done, until Owain Glyndwr captured it and made it his headquarters. If you like, it was Glyndwr's Camelot. After sleeping rough on mountain tops for many months, Glyndwr's men would have welcomed their new home with open arms, drafty as its rooms must have been on a cold winter's night. They would be stationed here for 3 years, during which time they'd live in comparative comfort and take part in one of the most inspiring chapters in the history of Wales. When you enter this castle, I can tell you, the sense of power is immense. This wasn't the court of a rebel leader, an insurgent as we'd call him today. This was the court of a king in all but name, King Owain. And he was surrounded by some brilliant people. John Trevor, the Bishop of St Asaph, John Byford, the Bishop of Bangor, Griffith Young, his brilliant Chancellor. And together, what they did in this castle was try to lay the foundations of an independent Welsh state. It would be well governed. They would use the laws of the 10th century Welsh king, Hywel Dda. It doesn't get much better than that.